Okay, readers, welcome back. So, for today's read aloud, we're going to read a part two book. And we haven't read this book, I think, in class or in our lessons, but you might have read it in kindergarten. The book was Gaston, and it features this little white French bulldog. Well, the book that we are reading today is called Antoinette, and Antoinette is Gaston's friend. And in this book, Antoinette has a problem. She doesn't exactly know what makes her special. And that is something that I can empathize with, readers. That means that is something that I can relate to because there have been many times where I wasn't sure what exactly made me special. And it took a while, or it took sometimes people to help me realize what exactly that was. What are the qualities that set me apart from other people? And in this book, it also takes Antoinette something big to really realize what exactly is that makes her unique, to appreciate herself for who she is, and not to compare herself to her other doggy friends and her brothers. Well, I'm hoping that we have fun reading this book, but before we do, there are some things that I think that are important to highlight so that we understand what is happening a little bit better. First, it's to know that the story takes place in another country called France. In France, you might know from very famous images like the Eiffel Tower and their flag. It's red, white, and blue, much like ours, but it has a much different design. And something else to understand is that because it takes place in another country, the names of the characters are going to sound different from what you are used to hearing. And some of the names I think the author chose on purpose to add some humor to make it a little bit more funny. So just watch out for that. I hope you get a kick out of it. But let's get back to the book. So, as we're reading this book, we are going to be using some of the comprehensional skills that we've been working on in our other read alouds, where we look at inferences and the theme. But one thing that we are going to be doing that is different in this read aloud is looking at what life lessons the character, in this case Antoinette, what lessons she learns, because we're going to be using that to help support our thinking, to help with our inference work. Because in this book, thinking about the life lessons about what Antoinette learns in the story is going to be a big clue that's going to help us do some thinking work about what the theme of the story might be. Are you ready? Well, let's start reading. Ready? Antoinette, from the creators of Gaston, Kelly DiPucchio, and Christian Robinson. The author knew, as authors do, that each of her readers was special. This one is for you. Oh, readers, look! This book is dedicated to all of you. And also for Carol. Antoinette. Words by Kelly DiPucchio. Pictures by Christian Robinson. Mrs. Bulldog watched her puppies race through the yard. Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. Here they come again! Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. Busy, aren't they? And ridiculously cute. But please don't tell them that. Phooey! Mrs. Bulldog knew, as mothers do, that each of her puppies was special. Rocky was clever, outstanding. Ricky was fast, superb. Bruno was strong, impressive. And Antoinette? Well, unlike her burly brothers, she still hadn't quite discovered what she was good at. Chin up, barked her mother. You have something extra special. I can feel it in my bones. Antoinette was not so sure. Readers, how do you think it makes her feel not knowing what she's good at like her brothers? How do you think Antoinette is feeling? Could you turn and talk and tell the person next to you? How do you think Antoinette feels about not being sure what she's good at? Or maybe have a quick conversation about why do you think Antoinette hasn't discovered what makes her special? Okay, let's keep on reading. Every day, the family went to the park to play with their doggy friends. Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Antoinette was fond of Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and especially Gaston. There was much to chase after in the park. Biscuits, balls, butterflies. Oh boy, there seems to be a problem. Ooh, I wonder, readers, if this is the part where the problem happens in the story. Do you see that? Do you see how one of the puppies is already separating from the group? I wonder if this is the part where Antoinette starts discovering what makes her special. A puppy is missing, Mrs. Bulldog announced. The pups gathered around Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette, followed by Fifi, Fufu, and Gaston. Where is Oolala? Mrs. Poodle asked frantically. Mrs. Bulldog comforted her friend. We will find her, she insisted. Rocky was clever and he tracked paw prints in the mud. No, Oolala. Ricky was fast and he raced around the lake in no time at all. No, Oolala. Bruno was strong. He left no stone unturned. Still, no, ooh la la. Mrs. Poodle cried out in desperation. Whatever shall we do? Readers, to me it seems, right here in this picture, like Antoinette's brothers were using everything that made them special. Remember, Rocky was smart, Ricky was really fast, Bruno was very strong, but none of those things helped them find their friend. And do you see Antoinette's face? She seems like she wants to help, like she wants to contribute to helping find her friend. Can you turn and talk about what do you think she's going to do? Okay, let's come back together. Let's keep reading to find out. Ready? In that moment, Antoinette felt a tug in her heart and a twitch in her nose. She could not, would not give up. Antoinette sniffed sidewalks and street vendors and signposts. The fearless pup dodged buggies and bicycles and broomsticks. Not even a loud, hungry garbage truck could slow her down. Well, readers, I have an inkling about what makes her special. Do you do too? Well, I'm thinking that it's her persistence, her unwillingness to give up and keep going that sets her apart. In the previous picture, she was sniffing all over the place to find her friend, and even though she didn't find her, she still didn't give up. She started looking everywhere for her. Even though some things were a little bit scary, she wasn't giving up. She still kept going. So I'm thinking that this is something that is going to be important to understand or to remember, that she is not giving up. When the parade of dogs approached the entrance to the city's museum, Antoinette began to yap loudly. No dogs allowed, the guard said gruffly, pointing to the sign. I'm not sure if that's going to stop her, readers, because you remember, she seems to be a dog, doesn't let anything get in her way. And there she goes, look at her. But Antoinette was unstoppable. She ran circles around the guard, dashed through the doors, and raced down a long corridor. Antoinette burst through the crowd just in time Do you remember, readers, what those three dots mean? Sometimes when we see that in our books, it means something suspenseful is going to happen. And I'm thinking that is exactly what is happening in this situation right now. Because she's running through the crowd, she's going after something. So I'm thinking that Antoinette is running through the crowd to do something. Maybe to go to Ooh La La. Do you think so too? Well, let's see what happens. Ready? Yep, 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 yep. To save Ooh La La from a perilous fall. Look, everyone is watching. Everyone is probably thinking, wondering if she's going to get to that puppy in time. One of them is even thinking, très bien, that, oh, good thing. He's probably thinking, good thing that someone got there just in time to help. Antoinette is able to save Ooh La La. Let's see what happens. Would you like to see that again? Well done, Antoinette. Merci, merci, Mrs. Poodle said, panting happily. You found my Ooh La La. Mrs. Bulldog was beaming with pride. You were remarkably brave, she said to her daughter, with a wink. Antoinette smiled. Gaston smiled too. And many years later, while Antoinette and Gaston were raising a busy family of their own, oh, readers, they have such cute puppies. Antoinette followed her heart and her nose and became one of the most famous police dogs ever to patrol the streets of Paris. The end. So, readers, let's think about Antoinette and what are some things that she maybe learned. What are some life lessons that she might have learned in this book? Maybe what did she learn about herself? Can you think? What is something that you think that she learned? Can you give me a thumbs up if you maybe thought that it's important not to give up? Because that was a big takeaway for me, because there were many times after Ooh La La went missing that I thought, well, you know what? This is something that maybe makes her special, that she was doing everything possible to find her friend, even when she was having a hard time doing it. She wasn't giving up. She was being very persistent. So that is something that I think that she learned, that it's important not to give up. But to be honest with you, readers, that can be really hard to do, especially when you doubt yourself, like Antoinette. Remember how at the beginning she didn't really know what made her special? And when you don't really think that you're special, it can be hard to be persistent and it can be very easy to give up on yourself. So, readers, let's make an inference by using the clues in the story, in this case, what Antoinette learned, in our own schema, our own understanding, to infer what the author tried to convey as the theme for this book. Can you turn and talk and have a quick conversation with whoever's working with you? Again, think about what did Antoinette learn in this story, not just about life, but about herself. And think about your own experiences. What do you think the author wanted to highlight as a theme for this story? So I'm thinking, readers, that the message that the author was trying to get across for the theme of the story was that it is important to embrace what makes you different, to not compare yourself to others, and to really appreciate who you are. Because even though, like Antoinette, it might take you time to do that, or it might take someone else time to do that, there is something special about everyone. You might not realize it, but there is something special about you, about everyone. It might take time to see that, but it is those differences that really set us apart. Before we conclude our read aloud for today, I did want to mention that Mrs. Correa and I were noticing that not everyone is doing the read alouds. So at the end of each read aloud, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you a challenge that you can include in your weekly homework. So if you want to get extra credit, and this is why I'm putting it at the end so that hopefully you finish watching the whole video. If you want to get extra credit, try and think about the story we just read and think about what these three words might mean: persistence, courage, and perilous. There were clues in the story about the meaning of each of these words, and sometimes throughout the book, I gave hints too. So if you can come up with a definition for these three words, persistence, courage, and perilous, and include that in your weekly homework, Mrs. Curra and I will give you extra credit for your reading. Well, anyways, thank you for working with me today. I can't wait to work with you again tomorrow. Bye bye.